Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and today I'm joined by Sarah Dahlinger. How are you doing today?
Hey guys, I'm doing really good. We've been we've been chatting for like half an hour already now, so happy to continue the
Yeah,
chat.
these are always great when I mean it's cool to meet new people too, but when I get people on that I've known for a while and we've done this before as well as met at conventions and stuff in person. It's like it's like hanging out with a friend you haven't seen for a while, so it's always really cool.
Yeah, it's always like the first time it's cool because you're like, oh, I get to meet these new people and like it's a new experience. And then yeah, after that it's like, oh, I haven't seen you in forever. How's things?
Yeah. So that's really cool. So Sarah Dahlinger is an awesome illustrator and artist, and I really know you from making monsters because you make that's one of the things that's really drawn me to you. And you most recently had or your project you've been working on for a while. I shouldn't say most recently is the what is it Zero Drag Murder Mouth.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, my alien sharks and more.
Yeah,
Um
and
that's
you
that's been fun.
you also did the cover Out of the Box Encounters for us, which looks fantastic. Um,
That was a good one. I like doing that one. That one was super fun. That was like one of my most fun commissions because you were like mimic and a whole bunch like just as many monsters coming out of the mimic as you want.
Yeah. Well, I am no art director, so it is much easier when I can go to an artist and be like, "Hey, here's kind of an idea. Do just run with it." And when you get an artist that's like, kind of just clicks with the idea and the vision, it just makes it so much easier. Um, After having done like the whole book and I art directed for the whole thing, it's not a job I particularly like. I don't, you know why? Because I don't like sending things back. I don't like change this. I don't like that. I don't, and
Oh, I get you. Yep.
I'm not a trained artist, so I'm not really the best person for that job. That's for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. If I'm getting paid to art direct, I like
Yeah.
art directing. I don't like unpaid art directing. Sometimes you get hooked into those and you're on
Uh,
a project and you're like, this project needs an art director,
yeah. And I feel like to be a good art director, you have to be like a little douchey because like or very critical at the very least. And like I struggle with that part of
No, you
it.
gotta. It's the sandwich. You have to
Yeah.
give it the sandwich. So it's like the critique sandwich is like you say something good, then
Yeah.
you say the thing that's gonna get fixed, then you
Yeah.
finish with something good.
Uh
You make a sandwich.
I'll have to remember that for next time. Hopefully in the
Oh,
future we'll actually be able to get someone to do the art directing for us and have it, and plus I have terrible eyes, so I'm probably not the great person. And also like looking at like sketches, like until it gets like further along, I really struggle to be like just like see where it's going sometimes.
yeah, yeah. That can be a challenge early on because you have some people that can like, look at like a napkin doodle and they're like, "Yep, that'll work." And then,
Yeah.
it's just, different people need different things.
Yeah. So I would do that. I'd be like, that'll work until we get further along and be like, that doesn't work at all. So,
Mhm.
which I'm sure the artist loves.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So what have you been working on lately?
Mm. I've been working on oh man, I was trying for a long time to do something every month because when COVID hit, like there was like a lot of people who were like sad. And so I was trying to do like a little project every month. So like I did the Merpuppers for Mermay.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I did Drinking with Dragons for Smogist. Um, oh, I did like the 365 creature prompts in June. I'm actually looking at a list on my wall of all the things that I wanted to do. Let's see. And like throughout the whole thing, I've been working on the Zero Drag Murder Mouth project. I was adding more story to it. That was a big learning curve. Was I went to Monster Palooza with like the first two chapters, and they had like minimal story, and people didn't really connect with them. And I was like, oh, but I have the story in my head. So I added
Yeah.
like storybook pages in there, and then I made the layout bigger. That's pretty much it. And then little client works here and there. I made a card game, that kind of thing. So just kind of taking work where I come and doing a lot of personal work in between.
Oh, cool. So made a card game or worked on a card game?
Worked on a card game.
Okay.
Yeah. It was for I want to say the company was Anvil 8.
Uh,
Um and I do not remember the name of the card game. I am sorry, Anvil 8. um, but they basically handed me the whole deck, and they were like, we need you to bring this to final. So I did that. That was a really fun project. It was very efficient and nice.
Yeah, because we're going to make me two different things here.
Yeah.
We've quite a few game designers that I'm friends with for
Oh,
tabletop.
yeah, I am not a game designer at all. I can't even really do. I have a couple friends that I always turn to stat creatures for me too, um, because I can't even really stat. But I really focus on pictures.
Well, yeah. I think they're like two different parts of the brain, right? Like the mechanics and all, and then the the artistic side of things
Yeah,
as
and
well.
also I think there's a certain. My biggest concern is like I could probably read a bunch of books and be like, I can make stats for this creature, but would those stats be fun to play? Or
Yeah.
would those stats be fun to encounter? And that's one thing that I'm not confident in yet. I probably could get there if I, applied myself. But
Well, it's like anything. Like everything is it's its own job. Do you want to learn how and make stats, or do you want to draw things? Kind of, right. You're going to do one
right,
or the other.
yeah. And I'm like, oh man, while I'm doing this, I could have drawn another one.
So, the project, so the project you've been working on for a while, and that's Zero Drag Murder Mouth is such a mouthful. Alien, but essentially it breaks down to alien sharks, right?
Yeah, alien
And
sharks.
I think we talked about before. You told me the story like that sharks' teeth have like this Teflon coating. So
Oh my god, you remember?
yeah. So they
That's
don't have any
amazing.
drag. They don't have any drag in the
Yes.
water, and that's like where the name came from.
Yeah, that's exactly where the name. It was funny because I made this joke on Facebook, and that's where the whole thing starts. And it's about the coating on the teeth. And I do scientific illustration too, so I have like a number of I have like nerd friends and well, actually no, I have all nerd friends. I think
Yeah.
it's just either if they're sciencey nerds or gaming nerds. And
What
the
flavor of
science,
nerd?
yeah, what flavor of nerd? And the sciencey nerds were like, oh my god, that's my favorite new classification term
Yeah.
for for monsters. And then it kind of stewed in my head for a while, and I made a book about it. So like the book has 6 alien scientists too, and it's like a new chapter and like their new science. Like you intro that person and then they talk about what they're doing. I wanted to have elements of like like my science nerd friends in there too.
So, could you not think of a longer name?
I would call it ZDMM a lot of times, or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Zero Drag. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was based on the joke.
Well, obviously, and I say that tongue in cheek because like whenever we do something, it's Nerdarchy the store, Nerdarchy the convention, Nerdarchy the flamethrower, whatever it happens to be. Um, and it's just kind of a throwback to Spaceballs.
Oh my god, yeah. Like,
So,
oh damn, you gotta do something that's nerdarchy, the quest for more money, like
yeah, yeah.
when you start doing 2s and 3s of things.
Oh, that would be that would be great.
Yeah,
If
that would be
once we finally
amazing.
get the first convention out, the second one, we'll subtitle it "The Quest for More Money."
Please do the quest for more money. That would be amazing.
There's so many people that have no idea what that means or what we're talking about, though. As a lot of things we talk about, I I forget what I mentioned. I think I mentioned it on a live chat the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, that's before my time."
Oh.
Yeah. I
It's
get
not
it.
that.
We're old.
Yeah, I know. I guess I'm entering into the realm of old. I understand Spaceball references.
So Mike wants to know when it comes to creating artwork for cards versus large scale pieces, are there more allowances for loss of detail to speed up the work?
For cards, a lot of times the like kind of no. Like they kind of a lot of times you paint a card image as big as you would paint like an illustration, like a full scale illustration, because they want the ability to print it on like a playmat or a poster or whatever. The thing with cards is you kind of want to make sure that your composition and your lighting and your values are really nailed down. So like when it is tiny, people can still recognize it. But I mean, I haven't had a client that has been like, I will only print this at like, 2 inches big. Like they're
Yeah.
going to be like, I'm going to print this as 2 inches big. Also, it's going to be this poster that's behind me that's like 6 feet long. So not really. You kind of just have to paint it like you would.
So last time we talked, you were kind of starting to get into D&D, I think, if I recall correctly.
I
How's
was
that going?
I was uh, I've played D&D since the early 2000s.
Oh, okay.
But it's kind of like I'm in a group and then I'm not in a group and then I'm in a group and then I'm not in a group. So I play D&D a little bit nowadays, but I've been really playing Fate like very regularly. And that's been a blast. It's been super fun. It's like the game is based off of Dune. It's like a homebrew of the Dune world. And I don't know much about Dune except like I watched the movie from like 1984.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like that, but I am having an absolute blast. And the D&D game that I'm playing now kind of intermittently is, just kind of a bunch of friends getting together, chucking dice and, killing like hobgoblins and stuff like that. And which is always fun too, because, we're just joking around. I'm playing a what is it? I can't never say this word. Scourge, Azamar.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I think I was thinking
that's
of
fun.
Crystal because I think she was just getting into it.
She is. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was just getting into to D&D. But I'm like a 2 decade nerd now.
Yeah, you've been around. You've been playing for a long time.
Yeah,
My bad.
that's
Um,
all good.
so you guys playing Fate Accelerator or Fate Core?
Fate Core, I think.
Yeah.
Is what he's playing. But yeah, it's fun. I really like playing Fate. You don't need you don't need to read the giant book to make a character. You can just kind of like I have a character. You can make it on the fly. It and it's funny. Like I think like some people are gonna really love it, and some people really aren't. Like for me, it feels a lot like when you were little kids and you're like running around outside and you pick up a stick and you're like, this is my lightsaber, and all the other little kids are like, I totally believe that that is a lightsaber and that you have it, and let's
Yeah.
continue playing. Like Fate feels like that to me. Like you can be like, I have this skill now and it makes sense because of X, Y, and Z, and people are like, yep, we're rolling with it. Like D&D is more like I don't know, refined. It's more like, I have
Like you
these
actually
I have
have to
these
have the
skills.
real
Yeah,
official toy lightsaber that makes a
exactly. Like I
sound,
have, yeah, exactly, the one that
extends.
lights up and yeah,
Yeah.
like you can't just be rolling around with like your twig and but
I
they're both fun though.
Yeah, I think I've only played Fate Core like once. I've played Fate Accelerated a couple times, and it is fun. I like rules like games where you just jump in and start playing, and they're good for doing kind of whatever, and and like you guys are doing, you're playing Dune, which there is instead of having the game for it, rules like kind of just like gets the themes that you need into it.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just like, this is kind of this
And I
world was
just lost
small.
sound on you.
You lost sound on me? Am I back?
Nope. That's weird. Hold on, folks, as we figure out the audio.
How's that? Nothing?
You're gonna have to mime everything now.
I know.
Like you're super low. Like I can almost hear you.
Almost hear me. Okay. Like that one. Nope.
Nope. Sorry, folks. Gremlins in the machines. Give us a second as we try and
That
figure
one.
it out.
How's that? Anything? Does that work?
It did work.
All right, there we go. We're on a different mic now.
That was weird.
All right, sorry, but yeah, that's why I apparently have all these various weird webcams around me. One of them will eventually pick up my voice.
Yeah. Well, that's how you can tell we're doing it live.
Right. Yeah, exactly. One's working fine and then dies.
Yeah. Wow. And that makes me realize I probably don't have enough backups ready to go on my end just in case.
Right now, I'm speaking to you through a hand-me-down that Tom got from his work, but hey, it has audio, so sure.
Yeah, that's coming through though. Now that's the important thing. I mean, I've definitely had weird things where it's like I'll use OBS one day and the next day I'll go to use it and I won't like check the settings or pay attention, and all of a sudden like everything's changed for no reason.
Yes. Yes, for the longest time. So, like, for whatever reason, Zoom wants to use Puppy Cam, and this is Puppy Cam when I stream, and I usually put it on the other end of the room so you can see the playpen I make for the dog. And for whatever reason, and people who were watching my stream just thought I was talking super quietly. My mic was on Puppy Cam, which is on like the end of the room.
Yeah.
And it had just changed there, and I had no idea. People just thought I was quiet.
Yeah, you like look over to the chat eventually and they're like, you're really low now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's even harder when like you're drawing, like, because you're busy doing that stuff.
Oh, that is very much so like a learned skill. Like to stream, it's like you're here and you're drawing and everything and you're watching the chat, and then like someone will ask a question and you have to like answer that question with one half of your brain and draw with the other half of your brain.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to some artists, and they're like, "I just can't do that." Like, or it's like it's gonna slow down my drawing to a crawl. Do you find that it affects your pace?
The funny thing is I find a lot of times now that I'm used to it, my pace is better. Because for whatever reason, like if I'm talking about what I'm doing, I'm like focused on it. So like my brain likes to go on like little field trips, like and it just goes off. And but if I'm streaming and I'm working and someone's like talking to me about my piece, then my pace actually goes up. But in the beginning, it's weird. Like you have to like get over that hump, like that learning curve to be able to do it. So like your pace goes down and then it goes back up.
Yeah. So how long before we get the Zero Drag Murder Mouth book?
I don't know, because like if things keep happening, like pandemics.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah, it's funny. I don't want to say like when we're gonna get it. I finished chapter 3, which is great, and then I'm gonna reformat chapter 1 and 2 to the bigger pages, and then I want to say 2 more chapters. I forget if I was gonna do 5 or 6 after that, and then that would be it. But if things like global pandemics keep happening, that's gonna keep throwing some wrenches in the works.
Yeah, I know all too well, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then like the one before that was like when my dog got sick, and so it's like I'm actually pretty happy with how I'm doing. I have a chart like right here up on my wall, and it's like Q1 objectives, Q2 objectives, and as far as Zero Drag has gone, I've met all of them, so that's good.
Now, is that going to be a Kickstarter?
Yeah, eventually. So what it is I don't want to fall into the trap of you do the Kickstarter and then it takes you so long to make the book, and then all the pricing has changed. So I'm using Patreon to kind of like get a little bit of money throughout the book, and then when I do Kickstart it, it will pretty much like the book will be like 95% done.
Yeah.
Like I want it to be like, this is how many pages it is, this is how big it is. I want to eliminate variables because I know a lot of artists who have done Kickstarter book projects, and like, they'll do the Kickstarter in November, and then all the shipping rates and the postage changes, and then all of a sudden they're out a ton of money, when they ship it in like February. Um, and for me, I was like, you know what? We're gonna make sure that that book is pretty much done before I kickstart it.
Yeah. I also, I guess it depends too. Like, so you're doing all the work. You're doing pretty much all the work yourself. You're doing like the layout, and you're doing the
Yep.
writing and all the illustrations. So
Yep.
like, how much writing will be in there? Like, how much of a story is it that goes along with it?
So there's probably about, it's kind of like, um, so it's kind of like there's going to be like a picture, and then there's like a page of writing, and then like a picture and like a page of writing, roughly about that. And I want to say like each chapter has three different monsters that are described, and the scientist character. So like the scientist character goes to the planet. It's like, look, I'm at this planet, blah blah blah. I have encountered this. This is what happened, And it's actually the thing about the book is, I wanted to try and do something that's a little bit different, and it's pretty much a creature concept art development portfolio hidden in a storybook. So like you'll see like the first version of the creature that I've drawn, and then you'll see the second, and then you'll see the third, as if I was developing the creature for use in a book or a movie or a game or whatever. And then you see the final. And then you have the scientists talking about how that creature has changed or mutated or morphed, or they went to a different part of the planet and found a different creature that looks just like it. So I'm kind of using story to explain how creature development works. It's a little, I mean, maybe it's a little fourth wall-y, but it's never addressed.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's how the whole thing works. So let's see. Usually I have like a first pass, a second pass, a third. Then I do the ZBrush model. Yeah, so it's probably like each chapter's about 8 pages. Each creature's about 8 pages, and probably like 4 of them is story.
Yeah. So do any of the scientists get eaten?
No, actually, so I did the deep chapter, the abyss chapter, and that scientist is like super happy-go-lucky and really fun. And then I did the river chapter. That scientist is very like dour, but like really really tough. And all of the creatures I did in those ones, and this was probably just like a thing I needed to do, were pretty like nice, or just like none of them were like evil. And then I got to the polar chapter, and I was like, it's time. It's time. So I have like cannibals that live in the wastes of the polar thing, and like zombie sharks, and yeah, that poor scientist has a rough go of it. Like the polar, like my deep sea chapter, you think, oh, deep sea is going to be all scary and everything, and I was like, no, I'm going to have like this adorable little bat thing, and she's going to go down there and be like, this is awesome, and like I'm super excited to be here and do science. And that was really fun to write because she's really fun to write. And then, but like I got that out of my system, and I was like, for the cold dark winter one, it's gonna get gritty.
The cold makes people grumpy.
Yeah, exactly. So that scientist, I don't want to say what happens to her, but she has a day.
Yeah. No, that's fine. No spoilers. That's awesome. You also have a project, like a smaller project you're working on now, right?
Oh, the new Kickstarter. The
Yeah.
little, yeah. So oh, actually I can show you. So these little guys, these little figurines that I make, these are called my worry dolls. And
Uh-huh.
for the January Kickstarter, I made, so this is supposed to be kind of like the embodiment of the emotion worry. And then for the Kickstarter in January, I made I want to do a limited release of 100 glow in the dark figures of hope. And it's like a little cute thing that's like looking up, being like so hopeful, and it has a little flame in its hands. And the thing with the Kickstarter is it's like the make 100 event. He's like, you do a tiny Kickstarter and you only do 100 of a thing.
Uh-huh.
And the limited edition is gonna be, the little fire will glow when you shut the light off.
Oh, nice. The so why is the worry thing just a big mouth?
Oh, okay, so
That's an interesting story, actually. And it involves a therapist.
Mm.
So, about 2 years ago now, I was in therapy and they were talking about, because I have anxiety and I talk about it all the time, so everyone knows this. And she was saying, oh, there's like this technique where you can say, like, oh, my worry or my anxiety looks like a thing, and you can like put the thing on a shelf. So like some people be like, oh, it's an elephant. So you get like a little elephant toy and you put it on the shelf. And then you're like, whenever you're feeling worried or something, you can be like, chill, elephant, and just look at it. And it like knocks you out of that cycle. So you can kind of, instead of spiraling up, you can calm yourself down. And so me being kind of like, Bostonian asshole a little bit, was like, all right, lady, I've seen what my worry looks like in, like, I've had nightmares and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's like this giant amorphous black blob with like huge teeth that like swirls around. And the only thing you can see is his teeth. And she was like, no sweat off of her. She was like, you're a creature designer, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. And then she's like, well, why don't you just make it tiny and solid? And I was like, oh, I was like, oh my God, you're a genius. So one thing led to another, and then I made it tiny and solid. And I paint them all different colors because, they're for different people. But that's how it started. Like, she just like completely floored me with her genius and expertness in her own craft. And then I ended up making them a couple months later.
So you squished your worry.
Yeah, into a little solid thing instead of a big gaseous thing.
Yeah. Are you going to do all the emotions?
I was kind of thinking I wouldn't, and now I kind of think I might.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because like the worry dolls originally were made. I mean, that was like a really easy thing to grasp, and a really easy project to do. And the figurine itself is very simplistic. And I wanted to learn how to do resin casting so I can make resin kits for the Zero Drug Murdermouth creatures. And so I needed to do like some little test monsters, and that's all they were. It was like little test monsters. But then people started really loving them. So now I think I might.
Yeah, well, the Hope is really cute. It looks like kind of like an alien frog to me.
It does. It does look like a little alien frog. And actually, someone was like, I was streaming the design phase live on Twitch, and someone was saying like it looked like an alien frog had a baby with a pizza. So it's like a pizza alien frog. And I agree with that. It's like a pizza alien frog baby.
And folks, as always, the links are in the description so you can go check them out. And after this is not live anymore, it'll be in the pin post as well. So you can see the adorable little Hope, and sign up if you want to be notified when it launches as well. Mm-hmm. So if you do the rest of them and you were to continue, what would you do after Hope?
People have asked for Perseverance.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I was talking about what I would do for this one, and Hope and Perseverance were the top two. So Perseverance, I think I could do. And then after that, it's hard to have a plan, because like with emotions and stuff, especially like with some, I almost feel like I'm not qualified. So like worry and anxiety, I like frequently experience myself. So I feel like I'm qualified to make that miniature, but I don't experience depression a lot. So like I'm like, I would have to speak with a number of other people if I was going to try and capture that emotion within a figurine, because I don't feel like I'm qualified. Like I feel like with the heavier emotions, I would need to talk to people. With the lighter emotions, like I could make, I don't know, joy, and no one would be like, that isn't what joy looks like. But if you want to do some of the more, I guess, deeper ones, I gotta talk to people, and I haven't made plans to do that yet.
Well, I guess, or like, I feel like it could also just be your personal interpretation. Like, I don't think someone else gets to tell you what your joy looks like.
Right.
So
that's true. I guess my concern is I don't want to, I don't ever want to like accidentally belittle a thing. You
Mm,
know, like I don't want to ever tread in those grounds. So if like I was going to do like a heavier sort of thing, like a depression kind of thing, or imposter syndrome or something like that,
yeah.
I wouldn't want someone to be like, "Are you making fun of me?" Because I'd be like, "No, I am 100% not."
Making fun of you. I don't even know who you are. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the internet can be weird sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like, so when I saw the worry doll, I was like, what it made me actually think about is like, oh, it's got those big teeth. So like when a dog or an animal worries on something.
Yes, that is it. Yeah. Yeah, like to worry is like when a dog worries a bone. And
Yeah,
they're also blind. They don't have eyes, because that's one thing I worry is, for at least for me, it seems like it's very blind. It can't actually see the whole situation. So it's just like gnawing on you without a lot of understanding. Um so yeah, that's why he's blind in his big teeth.
yeah. So
Oh, and a lot of people though just use them as like monsters. Like I have, like, if you become a patron of mine, you can get a mini one, like a 1x1 mini. It's like a
yeah,
worryling, and it comes with like D&D stats. And like even people use the big ones. Like I want to say this is like fits on like a 3x3 grid,
yeah.
maybe. Yeah. So
They,
some people just use them as toothy monsters.
no, I think they'd be cool as a monster. Like, especially the little one, because they also make me think of Zerglings a little bit.
Oh
Um,
yeah, some people. It was funny. I didn't even know what they were
yeah.
until I went to my first con with the little worry dolls, and someone was like Zergling, and I was like, so I was like on my phone being like, the hell is this? Is it like the thing I made?
Are you buying? Then yes, Zergling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly, but it does make me think about that a little bit. But like the idea of a bunch of these, and especially the tiny ones, makes me think of the Zergling Rush. I don't know. It's one of the few video games that I had actually played a lot of, and I don't even know if there's many of them left. The real time strategy games. But StarCraft, the original one, was a real time strategy game, and I played the Zerg a lot just because they were creepy aliens. And I've even done like a couple like D&D one shots where I kind of like make them, and because they're like aliens, right? They're kind of like a
Yeah.
knockoff on aliens, pretty
Right.
much.
Right.
So I don't know. The idea of like something like that where it's just like individually they're not a big deal, but like tons of them, but you never encounter just one. It's always like a swarm of them.
Yeah. I mean, like even in the real world, that's why like those army ants are so scary.
Yeah,
There's like, well, I don't know. There's like 2 million of us.
yeah, yeah. Like the fire ants and stuff. It's like if one of them, it's not a big deal. You just squish it. Except for there's another, million plus coming.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Um. So how have you been gaming during the pandemic?
Yeah, we've been doing like really, God bless Roll20.
Yeah.
Like we've been, yeah, it's been Roll20, and it's been that Fate game on Roll20, and then it's been like just some dungeon crawl, like one shot or kind of intermittent D&D here and there. So I have been gaming a bit. So that's like, I mean, like all things considered, that's been pretty good. Like I'm like, yeah, that's a solid 2020 record.
So would you say you're gaming the same or more?
Uh, now more,
Yeah.
now more. But it's, like I said, like my life is like in cycles. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes I game a lot, and sometimes I don't. And I think it's just that's how it is. Like with the people I'm with, like sometimes people are just busy, and then.
Well, now everyone's like stuck at home and not doing as much, and like, I mean, you like many people are kind of get hit hard by the con scene not being there, and it's like you're not gearing up and getting ready to go to cons, so you
exactly,
unfortunately have extra time on your hands.
Cons would have definitely impacted my ability to game, but it's funny. We joke, we just say time has no meaning. So like the GM will say like, oh, what day is good for you? And I'll look at my calendar, which is completely blank.
Yeah.
Be like, whenever, man. I started doing karate again, in my free time with no cons, so that's been
nice.
fun. Yeah, so yeah, I do karate now, and I weightlift, and I play Fate and D&D sometimes. That's pretty
What
much my pandemic life.
what discipline?
Oh, Shotokan.
Cool. Very
Yeah.
traditional.
Yeah, yeah. I was in the Shotokan Karate Club in college,
Yeah.
for 4 years, and we sort of stayed in touch. And then in January of this year, they opened up a dojo that was really close to my house. So my sensei from like college contacted me and invited me to come back and train, and I did, never expecting to ever do
Yeah.
karate again. And then when the pandemic hit, everything went to Zoom. So we've been just continuing with that.
Oh, nice. Tell my daughter has her dance classes at school too.
I mean, yeah, it's like I definitely do not like it as much as an in-person class,
Yeah.
especially because like with cameras and right and left and where you're turning and what you're doing, it's a little hard, but it is better than nothing, I guess.
I feel like that just sums up life at the moment.
Yeah,
It's like it's better than nothing.
yeah. I call it decaf life. Like, you
Yeah.
ever go to like a restaurant and you're like, oh, can I have a coffee? And they're like, we only have decaf. And you're like, okay. Like, it's kind of how everything feels right now.
Yeah, we only have decaf. That's to sum up 2020.
Yeah, it's like we only have decaf.
Oh man. So yeah, so do you have advice for maybe other artists out there, like especially during these times, that trying to cope with not being able to do shows and stuff?
Yeah, actually, it was funny. I had a post that I made on my Facebook, and my artist friends like saved me. Like, I was like, for a long time, my mental mind space was just like, make it through 2020, and it'll get fixed, and the cons will come back in 2021, and it'll be 100% normal. And that's not true. So I spoke to a number of artist people, and it seems like the general consensus is build your mailing list newsletter, build your social media presence, start looking into doing Kickstarters, start looking into doing like virtual pop-up sales. Like, it'll be like 5 artists gets together and like run their own little sale online is the thing that's happening now. Etsy and Amazon shops should probably, if you're thinking about doing it, they're a slow build, but you might as well get that ball rolling. And then, of course, I mean, you can always still keep doing the cold calls, the art directors every 3 months, and kind of just keep on keeping on. But yeah, like, definitely, if you have a Patreon, start pushing that harder, start networking more. And everyone has told me start doing Kickstarters, so I'm gonna give it a go. So we'll see.
So do you still find yourself having to do a lot of cold calling? I mean, you've been at it for a little while, and have a reputation.
I think yeah you do, because it's like, well, especially now, it's like there's not a ton of projects going on. So it normally, like in 2019, I didn't have to do like any cold calling. Like, I was just constantly had work. It was great. Like 2019, like this is my 4th year as a freelancer, and 2019 was like year 3, and I was like, yeah, all right, we're starting to get in a good groove here. I'm starting, I get multiple emails a month. I always have a job or 2 going on. This is fantastic. Starting to actually get real money. And then 2020, it was like done. So you kind of have to hunt down the people who have like that one job, or that one project they're making this year. So that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, that stinks. But I'm sure eventually it'll be back to quote unquote normal-ish, whatever the new normal ends up being.
That's why I think it's kind of this is kind of weird. We're gonna circle back to Zergs and ants. So I think you need an ant-based platform instead of like a tiger-based platform. So if you get like a book that's like one thing and it's like badass, it's like a tiger. It's like, yeah, I knew in this one book and it's awesome. And once that book is gone, it's gone. But if you make like a Patreon and a newsletter and everything, and you can get like $10 or $20 or $3 or $2 or whatever from like thousands of people, that will sustain you longer because, like you said, if you're trying to like squish an anthill, like if two of those guys go out, you still have all the other people.
Yeah.
So crowdfunding and building your platform is,
Yeah, we've always, kind of looked at the 1,000 fans model,
yep,
right? It's like, do you have a 1,000 fans that are willing to spend $20 with you a month? But that can be anything too. Like, it doesn't have to be 1,000. It could be 500 or 100 if you have people who are willing to spend even more, or it could be 5,000. Whatever however the numbers work, and then just figuring out how to provide value into the market so that they want to support whatever you're doing.
yep,
It is
exactly.
kind of been the model that we've looked at from the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. The 1,000 true fans thing, I think, is pretty legit. And then I also agree with that. It's like, what value can you provide? Like this whole year, I was like, I want to try and make stuff that provide entertainment for people, because I know they're having like kind of a rough life. So what can I put out that would make people happy during this time? So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, we haven't done these in a couple of years, and then we decided, like, with everyone stuck home or whatever, like, all right, we'll do more live stuff to, I don't know, give people something to do for an hour.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, that's one of the reasons I stream, like, just so I had a couple streams in the very, very beginning when everything was locked down and people were really kind of like shaken. I feel like now we're like, yeah, we've been doing this for a while. Like, we get this pandemic stuff. But in the beginning, people were like, I just got laid off and blah, blah, blah. So I would do a couple streams where I'd be like, hey, I'm going to drink my coffee and make some art. Drink your coffee and join me. Like, just come and listen to jazz music, just to give people like something to do to chill out.
Yeah. So, like, this week is weird because, like, my daughter was supposed to go back to school in this hybrid format. And but our school has a system in place where it's like every time like a new case shows up in the school, they call you. So leading up to it is like they're calling us like every other day. And so we're like, yeah, maybe it's not time. I think you're going to be zooming for a bit longer.
Yeah, I've heard a number of parents say the exact same thing. Like they would call them and they're like, we've gotten a call every day for a week. Wow. Like, we're not going to do this.
Yeah. And, like, even the hybrid is weird because it's like they're half days anyway, and it's only a couple days a week. But, like, it feels like the extra exposure and risk isn't worth that little bit of benefit they might get.
Yeah.
From doing it. So
I think this year is just going to be a hard school year for everyone. Like, just,
the calendars going forward is just going to be like 2019, 2021, 2022. We're just going to skip it.
Yeah, like, really. Like, I kind of think like we should have just skipped school this year. Like, just everyone just like, nope, not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, but
my son is in like his second year of college, and he was just picking his classes, and he's like, all remote classes. We're like, yeah, all remote classes.
Yep.
So
which would have been like impossible for me because I did art school. Like, I had to go into like where they had the equipment. Like, I guess I could have done a lot of my major classes, like, because I did mostly digital art, so that could have been done online. But like, when you're getting an art degree, they make you take like all these other electives. Like, I did woodworking and textile dyeing and sewing, and I took a bunch of stuff. Like, they make you take so many random classes to get a degree. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's college in general.
Yeah.
So they have to justify the cost somehow.
Yeah.
I know, like, when my brother did art school, he went to Philadelphia University of the Arts. Like, they had their own studios and stuff.
Oh yeah. If you were a fine artist, you got your own studio. I was a commercial artist, so we just had a computer lab. But even still, like, I want to say the first 1 or 2 years that I was like working on like a good computer that could actually run Photoshop and like run Lightwave back in the day for 3D and like run the Unreal Engine. I didn't own a computer like that. I was like 20. Like, so I had to go in and and to the lab to use those programs that I needed for my major. And like the labs are all crammed in, like tight together. So
Yeah. The that and the kids are so much luckier now. In that regards, at least like the technology is there and it's come down enough where it's it's affordable. So like you're saying, when you're 20, having just having a computer that could run that stuff. Yeah.
that was like a big hurdle. Like, just actually having a computer that could run Photoshop well, that was like a big deal
Yeah.
when I finally got that.
I didn't have a computer until after I bought my first house. I mean, I was young when I bought my first house, like 22, but I didn't have a computer until then. And I think most people won't even know this company, but there was a company called Gateway that like made and sold computers, and you would go in there and like pick out, build your computer or whatever. It probably hasn't existed for like almost 20 years or something.
I remember the Gateway computers.
They had the cow boxes.
Yeah, the cows. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember the cows. Yep.
But, yeah. So, when I was growing up, forget about it. Like there wasn't even an internet. There wouldn't have been any choices. So at least now there are options, and, the kids are able to adapt. And like for my son hardly leaves the house anyway. Like all of his friends are online, and they just hang out online in Discords and stuff.
Yep. Discord is interesting. At first I was like, what is this? And then I was like, stop being old. You should pay attention to this. And so I went and I checked it out. And I do like it for chatting during streams. That's actually really fun. So you can invite your friends to chat with you while you're streaming. And it is neat for like community building that's off of like Facebook or social media. So I made a little Discord channel for like all the people who are trying to do the tiny Kickstarters in January. So like we don't have to get distracted by like the shit show that can happen over in like Facebook land, and just focus on that project in Discord land.
I get invited to and end up in all these different Discords, and then I immediately go in and like turn off all the notifications. So unless someone actually ats me, I don't see it mostly, except for maybe some of our own communities. But it just becomes too much where, like you got people messaging you on Facebook and DMing you on Twitter, and then the Discord, and then the emails.
Oh God, yeah. I was talking to someone and they were like, I sent you a private message, and why didn't you respond? I want to commission you. And this person, I knew them. Like I knew them enough to explain. And I was like, I can get a private message on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, my other Facebook, like my Discord. And I was like, just email my work email. Like if you just go to my website, you can there's a contact form. It goes directly to my work email inbox, and then boom, you're done. But yeah. Oh yeah, like really, don't DM artists; they won't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because especially it's like, if you're an artist or even YouTubers like us, it's just like you end up having to be on so many platforms to be out there, and it's just like so much noise coming at you. And it's just trying to tell people, like, if I don't get back to you, it's not personal. And people get angry too. Some people will get angry, like, you didn't reply to my message. I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand. Like, I could have seen your message, like when I stopped at a red light and been like, oh, I'll get back to this. And in the meantime, 100 more messages have come in, maybe even on that platform, let alone the other ones. And it's just like gone forever.
Yep. I'll do that too. Like sometimes I'll see a message and be like, oh no, if you click on that, then the little blue dot will go away and you'll never find it again.
Yeah. And I got a peanut brain too, so it's like squirrel, and as soon as something else comes along, I'm like, that's totally forgotten and gone.
Oh yeah.
And that is like, I guess that's like the modern struggle for everybody, but even more so when like you have a business and it relies on connecting in all of these different places and platforms, and each one of them could be their very own job, and it's not even the main thing that you do. So
yeah, it definitely feels like you have I like being a freelancer a lot, actually, but it definitely feels like I have like 5 jobs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like when we went out to LA for Geek and Sundry, and like they were giving us a tour of the like the Nerdist and Geek and Sundry rooms. They each had their like own bullpens. I was like, oh my god, I have to do all. I like it really like brings it home when you see like a room full of people doing the job that you do.
Right. You're like, wow, they have like teams of this.
Yeah. Well, you know, hopefully, I guess the hope is to eventually get successful enough to hire other people to do that stuff for you. You know, so someone else can be Sarah Dahlinger on social media.
Yep. One day. Like one day I hope like it would be cool. Actually, I don't know if this is going to be cool or not, but like in the beginning, because I'm like a practiced extrovert. Like I'm super introverted.
Yeah.
But you kind of when you're super introverted and you want to do this job, you kind of have to have a real honest conversation with yourself about how much you're going to learn to extrovert, because you really have to. And like my dream for a long time was like, one day I'll be famous enough that I'll never need to go on social media again.
Yeah.
And that was like my goal for a while. And now I'm like, well, now that I'm less scared of it, I'm like, I don't know if I need that. And also you get some real conversations too. Like you get some like actual friends eventually, and you're like, oh, but I'd miss that guy.
Yeah. So I don't mind that stuff. The in-person stuff. That's where I get like, that's where my anxiety kicks in when I'm like in a room full of people. Like, you know, one or two people at a time is like kind of where it's kind of my speed, right? And like also like, and I have people go like, I'm not an extrovert like you, and I'm like, I've never been an extrovert. Like one of the things that kind of helped me was to like break things down was, is my wife comes from a very large family. Like her dad is the oldest of 11. Is like on the other side of the family, it's like 5. So like, and they were like really close knit and would always get together, and I get dragged to these gatherings of all these people. Not only was it a lot of people, it was a lot of people I had nothing in common with. Right. Like I'm not like a sports person, and like they're into sports and NASCAR and all kinds of things that are weird to me. And, you know, and it's like, you know, so I was like constantly being bombarded. That helped wear me down and get me ready a little bit.
That's good. Like, yeah, because like I wouldn't, like you do come off like as an extrovert for sure. So you're like you're a good introvert in hiding.
Yeah, pretty much a chameleon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but also like, you know, it's also a lot different dealing with people one-on-one than dealing like with groups of people. Like I get like, that's for me, it's like groups of people. I feel like a caged animal once I get around like 5+ people or so, and it's like I kind of like start shrinking in on myself, and and I start looking around like, where's the exits? So
with me, because I've done sports always, like even as a kid, so I'm really used to run the play. So I just call it run the play, and it's called extrovert. So I'm like, I'm running the play now. I'm going to be an extrovert. And then I'll like go back to my hotel room after like the end of a con, and I'll be like, oh God.
Yeah. Finally, silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like too, there's a lot of us out there like that, right? That are actually like, are introverts, and then it's like, well, we're introverted, but we still want to do the thing, and it's like, so you either have to give up on the thing or figure it out.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, because I wish I had started going to cons earlier, but I was like, I was working in studios, so I was like a studio artist, so I wasn't a freelancer. And then when I was thinking about being a freelancer, and then even as I was researching it more, I'm like, you're gonna have to start going to cons.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to have to start going to cons. So I started going to them, and at first I was like horrified. And now I kind of like going to them. But it's, yeah, you gotta, you have to do the thing to do the thing.
Yeah, that's true. It's even worse for you because you're like you're boothing, right? So it's like, it's kind of like being on this mini stage where people have to come into it, and like, if you want to do well at it, you have to be inviting and engaging and talk to everybody, and like, because sometimes I'll be at a con, and I think it's more prevalent like in the artist alleys than anywhere, is like there'll be just this dude or this woman drawing away. They don't even look up.
I know, and it's a bad habit. I don't do it. I try. A lot of people are like, oh, I get so much drawing done at cons, and I'm like, oh no. I'm like, when I'm at a con, it's us together.
Yeah.
You know, and I try.
You're drawing. Why are you drawing? You should be selling.
Yeah, like you gotta be networking and selling, and it's like so. It's like so much to learn too. It's like you can't be too desperate. You can't be pushy. You have to be like normal, but all the time you want to make a sale, and it's like a whole thing that they never teach you at all in art school.
And I feel like the drawers, right? They're like the antithesis of that. They're like, oh, I don't want to bother that person. They're busy doing drawing.
Which is funny too, because like I love when people bother me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because like so many people like on Twitch. This is so funny. I'll be on Twitch, so like when you're on Twitch, you're kind of like in public. You're kind of like live, and someone will like be like, "Oh, I don't mean to disturb you, but may I please ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Yeah, if I didn't want you to ask me a question, I'd have this off and I'd be in my room just like by myself." And it's the same thing when if I am drawing live. A lot of times I'll stand up with like my sketchbook or my iPad. Sometimes on slow periods of cons. If it's a busy con, I'll never have it out, and I'll look up and talk to people.
Yeah, so that's kind of like been my experience with things. I don't know. I wonder what, like, if they think like, well, maybe if I'm drawing, people will come watch me draw. Like,
probably. I mean, like the thing is like being an artist, it's like kind of being like naked a little bit. So you have this booth and you have all this stuff that's like part of you kind of out in front of this booth. So it's like these are like little bits of my soul all lined up in a row. And then it's like, so people come to your table with the little bits of your soul all lined up in a row, and they're like, I don't know if I like that. And then you're like, oh, you know, and you kind of have to get used to that, because like, you know, you might not be their cup of tea, but it's really easy to not engage with that whole interaction and check out a little bit and just go into sketchbook land. And I know like every artist I know can go into sketchbook land and be like, I'm safe in here.
The walls are up.
Yep, exactly. And
that's so also like,
what were you saying?
That's also why I don't like art directing. Like, because I feel like I'm judging that person as a person, like, especially like if you shop around looking for artists, and it's just like it feels very personal to me. When you're like, because literally like in that moment of time, my job is to weigh whether or not someone's work is good enough, and it just feels really, I don't like it. It just feels bad.
Yeah, I get you. It can be a challenge. Like I said, sandwich it. Just do the sandwich.
Yeah, the good and the bad.
Yep.
You know, that's why, like, you know, certain people in my life were really good to work with because they were really good at being critical. So it's like, here, you be the mean person, and I'll just go ooh and ah.
Mm-hmm.
But on the plus side, it is always fun to get the art back from artists, and like for the Out of the Box project, it was really nice. Mike, who was the lead designer in it, was he's in the chat, and I would get pieces back, and then I would just send him the piece to look at. I wouldn't tell him what it was, and it was so cool. And like he's like, "Oh, this is that, or that. This is the other thing." So then, like, it made me feel good, you know, for doing the art directing, and then, you know, the artist was able to take that vision and translate it into something that the person that actually originally wrote it was like, "Oh, that's the thing," and they're like blown away. And so that part was always been like a lot of fun.
That part is fun. Right now I'm working with I'm making a book cover and some interior arts, but they brought the author of the book onto it, and I've been talking to the author directly, and he was like, "This is so cool!" Like, you know, I can see, you know, you read, like, he'll send me like a page and be like, "Can you come up with a scene to draw from this page?" And I'll do that, and I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome!" And it makes me feel good to when like he's like, "Oh, that's like what I was picturing, but I couldn't describe it." And I'm like, "Yeah," I was like, "That's great, because I've done my job well."
I think it was I was talking to Chris Seaman at one of the cons, and I think the artist equivalent to that was when he had drawn the ogre Hucker or goblin Hucker. I don't know. It's this ogre with a catapult on its back and shoots goblins, right? And he's like, "Look what I got!" And he had the mini from the piece of art that he did, and and he was like, had this, the same reaction that the author would have to seeing the piece of art is when someone takes your thing and makes it into something else is really cool.
The other really, like when you have the mini so you can hold it,
Yeah.
being able to hold it is so nice. Like the first time I held a book that I illustrated, and I was like on a physical page, because I do a ton of digital stuff, so you never get to hold it a lot of times. But I was like, wow, it's a thing that exists in the world.
It makes it like more real.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That is super cool. Anytime us as humans can take our ideas and kind of like put them out there in a way that becomes tangible, and and other people can enjoy them as well. It's just, there's something kind of like magical about that.
Yeah, it's really, it's neat. It's like, and it always like wows me. Like I'm still like, wow. Like I was I did a bunch of work for Monty Cook, and they sent me like all the books that like they were in. It was like this 5 books, and so I opened up this package. It was like a treasure. I was like, oh, there's so many books.
Yeah.
And you can flip through them and be like, I did that one. You flip through, I did that one.
Super cool. Well, we are just past the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head on out?
Man, that was a wide-reaching conversation. Does anyone have any questions? I'll answer them. But other than that, I think we're pretty good.
Well, thank you for coming on. It was great to catch up with you again. And until next time, everyone, stay nerdy.